Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Those Coffee People podcast, recorded right here in Medellin, Colombia. We have a great episode for you today. In this episode, we are going to speak about the journey from cold showers to cold brew, building a vitamin ice ritual. I'm your host, Jennifer, and our guest today is Caleb, founder of Cold Plunge Coffee. Caleb, awesome to have you on the show today.
Awesome to be here. I love that title too. Thanks.
Yes, we have a wonderful show where we're going to go into this great story of your business, about how you've created Cold Plunge Coffee, and about what it means for the community that attend, both for cold plunges and for coffee. So I want to dive right into it. In our pre-conversations, you told me an awesome story about what started Cold Plunge Coffee, what started you going into the idea of cold plunging. You said that when you were living back in New York City, there was one moment where the hot water heater went out and your whole life changed at that point. Tell us a little bit about that story, about how you got into the cold plunge space and what was it that was really the spark to eventually starting Cold Plunge Coffee.
Yeah, Jennifer, thanks. It's definitely come about from many different aspects in my life that have all just sort of mashed together to create this unique perspective that I have about cold plunging and about like different problems that arose from not being able to do it. And idea came out of it too. But back in maybe about 15 years ago now, I think it was about 2011, I lived in New York City in the West Village, in this beautiful little dump of an apartment in the West Village on 6th Avenue. It was cool. I loved it. But, there's definitely always things popping up that were wrong with it. And me and my four other roommates one day discovered that the hot water heater was out. And after maybe a week of back and forth with the landlord and it not getting fixed, he came to us with a offer on the table to not fix the water heater and instead chop off, I think it was like $100 each off the rent to keep it as it is, as he was planning to gut the whole place out when our lease ended in a few months. And we jumped at the deal. We were super poor. So we were like, $100, that sounds awesome. And hindsight, it was a really, really bad deal. We couldn't wash dishes, much less take a normal shower whatsoever. But it really changed my life. It went from, like 1 second shower. It was early spring in New York City too. So it wasn't exactly warm. And we were just dealing with it how we could. I was a super coldie. I never liked cold water. I'm from Tennessee originally, so it's not like we had freezing cold lakes where I was experimenting with cold immersion and stuff like that. And it was before people were talking about cold plunging like they do today, and it wasn't really a thing at all. I think one of my roommates actually sent a James Bond quote. In pretty much every book on James Bond, they throw in the fact that he takes cold showers as like this just cool thing. So it's not something that's new, but I think that was, as a James Bond fan, kind of a little bit of support and, cool thing to think about. But anyway, I was taking 1 second showers. A couple of days later, I was graduating to maybe 3 second showers. And after about a week of writhing in pain and dealing with this really, really crazy early morning experience, I noticed a sea change in all my life. I noticed I was feeling better. My mood was better. In the morning, I was up. I was ready to go. I was focused at work. My relationships seemed better. Everything in my life seemed better. And I correlated it back with this, early morning super wake up call of freezing cold showers every single day. And since then, I was just like, this makes my life feel better. I'm into this thing. If I was on a hike, I was going in the Alpine Lake. If I was on the Pacific Ocean in January, I was going in the ocean. Every blue moon, I would maybe treat myself to like a spa experience. Right when I'd go in, I'd ask where the cold plunge is right away. Oh, you don't have one. I'll kind of think about whether I want to go in or not. So it's just something that stuck with me. And I had in the back of my mind that I knew made me feel better after being forced to take them for about 2 to 3 months. And it
This
stuck
is
with me to
something
this
I
day.
actually really wanted to go into, about how you started this and how it wasn't maybe like a very formal process at the time. I know you've spoken in the coffee business that you actually wanted to help people rather than simply following trends. And I want to go into that more. What do you think was really missing from the wellness experience that made you think there's a better way to do this?
Yeah, when I was putting together my business plan about what kind of company that I wanted to start, I knew I wanted to start something. I knew I wanted to build something. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I fought with myself for probably a decade about starting this. And it started with, how can I help people? How can I make something that will impact people's lives for the better? And go from there, because I don't want to start something that like I don't believe in, that I think is like fake, or that I think is just, not like, I'm not going to put everything I have into it if I really don't believe in it. And so that's kind of where I started. And then cold plunging kept coming back to me. There's got to be like a easier, more accessible, more affordable, more convenient way for people to do this every single day. Researching the market, like the wellness industry, it's big and it's growing more and more and more every single day. There's bigger spas, bigger contrast therapy places, just, whether it's apartment buildings or gyms, more amenities popping up every single day for this kind of thing. But still, the cold plunge, which I think should be something that I know it's something that I want to do every single day. 15 minutes a week. It doesn't take a lot of time. Why would somebody need to check into a spa that like traditionally is meant for maybe an hour, several hour kind of experience? If they want to have one of these, there's a lot of upkeep involved. They're very expensive. You can just have a bucket and pour ice into it, but that's easier said than done. The water temperatures are basically, I did this in my backyard in Seattle, and the water temperature would basically be whatever the outside temperature is. It takes a lot of work to do this. So that's the kind of holes that I was thinking about. How do I put this on a silver platter for the mass of people that maybe have thought about this? Obviously, the enthusiasts out there that are like me, that I've met thousands of, that want to do this every single day. How do you make it easy for them? And I thought there was a hole in the market there. I thought this was something that could impact my community, my neighborhood, my city, my country for the better. You can come up with a million excuses not to do a cold plunge. Oh, there's leaves in my cold plunge. It's a little cold today or whatever. But if you really just make it an easy, seamless, nice, clean experience, and you have a little treat at the end of it, it really just makes the thing that we know is going to be good for us that much easier. So I thought if I
I
could
love what you
combine it with
said.
coffee and just,
That's what I wanted to go for. You said a little treat within. Tell me more about that. The little treat I was assuming was coffee. Is that what you were
yeah,
going at?
yeah, we obviously love coffee, have had a lifelong dream of building a coffee business. And that's kind of where it all started, because I wanted to be in coffee, but I was also thinking about problems I had, and again, how I can like make an impact. And that's where this unique experience of knowing that cold water immersion really, really helped me and made me feel better. It made my life better. Combining those two and just having a really, really nice like cafe experience with the whole thing, I thought would be a unique offering. It's the world's first cold bath cafe, so it definitely is. And there's something to be said about just like with caffeine and cold water immersion, there's been some significant studies how it ups the effects of everything. But I just wanted to have it with the traditional espresso bar, the traditional cafe, and give people a way to earn their coffee after they did something good for themselves that is going to help their day. Hey, like just add to that experience and like have a place to talk to other people about it, have a place to hang out, and, just sort of build like a, fun little community around cold plunging. And there's nothing better than having a cup of coffee with a bunch of people to talk about what you just went through. So that's kind of
Love
where
it.
the other part of Cold Plunge Coffee came about.
But did Cold Plunge Coffee start in the moment that you are now, where you have the cold plunge setup and the coffee? Or was there any sort of precursor that you did in the coffee world before this?
No, it was when I was going back and forth about how I what I wanted to do in the coffee business. I think that was the pillar. Coffee was the first thing. I always had a passion for coffee, always wanted to be in coffee and wanted to build my own. Um, it started there, but I knew I wanted to be different. I wanted to do something else. And I just kept coming back. Cold plunge coffee, cold plunging it in coffee. Would people just do a plunge shop? It's literally just cold tubs. Does that make any sense? Would people want to do this? Would people pay money for this? But it started together. It started together and I just started doing it the only way I knew how, which was linking up with a friend of a friend that roasted coffee in Seattle and walking around parks and beaches, selling cold brew out of the back of my Subaru and bothering people around town, seeing if they wanted a cold brew. I didn't have to buy an espresso machine, so I thought that would be the easiest way to just get it going. I knew I just had to start, and that's what I did. So I linked up with a really, really cool good friend of mine now that was making really good coffee, roasting really good stuff, and just started. I sell coffee. That's what I do. I'm a coffee entrepreneur. Here we go. So just went for it. This was the first thing that I basically did. But it was called Cold Plunge Coffee. I put stickers on my growlers. I sold growlers around Seattle. I
Amazing.
delivered them to friends and family. I started delivering them to wholesale to cafés around Seattle. And then I started bringing cold tubs with me. They're called stock tanks, these 100-gallon Rubbermaid stock tanks. And I would sit outside like Green Lake in Seattle or East Lake or, West Seattle, places near bodies of water that not necessarily people were going in, but people were jogging around, they were hanging out, and I would say, "Hey, you want to get in my cold plunge? You want to try this out?" People were freaked out, but some people tried it. Some people took pictures. Most people were just like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And they'd walk away. But from there, it was just like little steps, little steps, little steps, little steps, little steps over the months that I would just learn and grow. And then I got a little coffee cart, still just with cold brew. I started networking with local businesses, wellness facilities, gyms, events, races, and I'd pop up at a hot yoga gym. I'd pop up at a CrossFit gym. I'd pop up at a 5K race, a farmer's market, and then it led to a sort of a residency shop at a vintage store in the neighborhood of Ballard that I would be at 5-6 days a week. And so it was just kind of little incremental steps that started with what's the minimum viable product here to talk to people about coffee, to talk to people about cold plunging, and just get started. So that's how I started. That's what I did. They both kind of were one and the same. So I had to learn a lot about coffee. Had to learn everything there, and eventually got my La Marzocco Mini and started selling espresso drinks. So just graduating up from just steeping cold brew and selling it and doing whatever I could to sell coffee, because that's what I wanted to do. At the end of the day, I wanted to sell coffee. So I just started doing it.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
the entrepreneur's journey is starting from the minimum viable product and just learning and improving and growing. And yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of our listeners can kind of resonate with that as well. It's that starting from your idea, starting from your passion, and just, putting your head down and trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. I love to see the progress, and I congratulate you on the process that you've been through and the company that you've built out in all of that hard work.
Yeah.
I want to talk a
Thanks.
little bit more about the idea of vitamin ice. You mentioned this to me once, and I just love it. It's awesome. You've created a ritual now around having this cold plunge experience, getting your coffee of the day, and building a community for whatever you can of people, like-minded people who share this idea. You've created a ritual around it for your community. Now, it's kind of interesting because in a world where people crave ease, crave comfort, crave things to be simple for them, you are selling an experience that innately is a little bit uncomfortable. It's cold. It's a shock in this world that is maybe getting targeted towards the opposite. I'd love to know more about this, about vitamin ice, and about how you've been able to create a ritual out of something that generally is kind of considered discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer, there's a lot of us around. We might be in the 0.001 percentile of the world, but there's a lot of people that I've met over the past couple years that are obsessed with cold water. They're like me. They know it makes them feel good. They want to do it. They gravitate towards it. They see cold water and they want to go in it. And it's crazy, but it makes you feel good. And I call it vitamin ice. It's just like a multivitamin that you take every single day. It makes you feel good. It makes you level up. It makes you feel whatever, 20, 30, 50% better focus, better mood, uh, better energy, whatever it is. I always like to ask people that come into my shop that are there every single day, what's your why? And that kind of
Love
like
it.
sort of reframes what you're doing this for. Recovery, inflammation, sciatica, knee pain. What's your why? And that kind of like is sort of a motivational force behind like why we do this. And I've literally watched people over the past 4 months lose 20, not have debilitating back pain every single day. Like it just like makes me feel really, really cool that like we're like actually, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30 people that like have said this stuff to me, I've like actually built something that's like really, really helped people's lives for the better. And so I call it vitamin ice, getting your daily dose of vitamin ice. Like a lot of the studies, like this is a relatively new thing as far as scientific studies out there, but there's about 12 indications that have been written up about, from autoimmune disease like MS. Recovery is what it's been used for forever by athletes. And that was kind of always my thesis. Like, why do athletes just get to use cold baths? Like, why can't like the general population use them? If, Olympians and marathoners and basketball players are using these after a game, like why wouldn't we use this too? It's not that hard. I always say it's like the easiest thing in the world with the highest ROI. You're just sitting there for 2 minutes, and you have to go through a couple different mental walls, but that's part of building it up too, building that mental resilience muscle, it's like bicep curls for your mind. And I just think they're magic. So I want people to have a way to experience them every single day as conveniently and affordably and accessibly as possible. And that's just kind of like where my whole thesis and my mission comes back to. But yeah, like we are evolutionarily predisposed to stray away from discomfort. We want to be comfortable in everything we do in life. And as life has been laid out on a platter more and more and more for us every single day, with our phones, with our tech, with whatever, I think the cold plunge just offers an incredible, like it's an incredible tool to help maybe balance back like our psyches and our minds and our bodies, and it offers me and my community and like people that I serve every single day a way to feel better, to just get that like little bit better joy and learn to cope with stress. You cannot be depressed. You cannot be anxious. You cannot have an ego when you're in a cold plunge. You must be forced to be completely present. There's nothing else like that moment of a couple minutes sitting in freezing cold water. I always tell people to take this time to get in some good breaths. We don't take that time throughout our day enough. Take it for yourself. 90 seconds, 180 seconds, whatever it is. Get some good breaths in. Your body will thank you after. Think about how good you're going to feel. Yeah, I mean, that's what discomfort and comfort's about. And think about it and thinking about it like, a medicine or a vitamin is a cool way to think about it too. Like I've already rewired my brain that this is going to feel like, I know this makes me feel good. So it doesn't really matter what I'm going through or the kind of the mental hurdle that I have to get through to get into it. Yes, some days it's a little bit harder, but I've trained my mind to tell my body, you're doing this. you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this every single day over and over and over again. So I think that I've just built up a mental resilience muscle over the years, over the months, whatever, that helps me cope with everyday stressors better. And, I think that's just it's an amazing tool for that. Yeah. So,
Caleb, I have a two-part last question for you.
okay.
The question is, from the entrepreneur's perspective, from this journey that you've been going through and the journey still left for you, what would you say to other entrepreneurs thinking about starting their own coffee journey? A word of motivation or a lesson that you've learned? That's the first part. And then the second part is, if someone wants to learn more about Cold Plunge Coffee, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, the hardest step is just doing it. You can ruminate and think about and plan and strategize and plan and Google and research, but you just have to take the step. You just have to go for it. There's nothing else that can substitute getting over the imposter syndrome, calling yourself a founder or a CEO or an entrepreneur or whatever it is, but you just got to do it and just go. It's been the most rewarding and fulfilling thing I think I've ever done, especially professionally. But after like fighting over like the years and years of being in corporate life, I've worked in financial world and in technology in New York and Seattle. So I kind of fought it for years and years and years. And like when you're on that different frequency, just different stuff happens to you, usually not attracting the best stuff. So I feel like a switch flipped when I just did it, when I started calling myself a founder and an entrepreneur, and amazing stuff happens. You meet amazing people, stuff just gets attracted to you, and it works out when you finally just take the leap. So you just have to do it. Stop talking about it. Do it right now. Do it today. Don't wait. So that's all I would say. Just get started.
Beautiful. Take the plunge, so to speak.
Take the plunge, go in head first, burn your lifeboats, burn everything. Who cares about your 401k, your healthcare? Stuff will work out if you just do what you want to do and you're passionate about it and you put everything into it.
Beautiful. Caleb, I love it.
And
Okay, so
yeah,
if someone
Cold
wants to
Plunge
take the
Coffee.
plunge at Cold Plunge Coffee, how do they
Cold
get in
Plunge
contact
Coffee
with
is
you?
in downtown Salt Lake City. It's the world's first cold bath cafe in the heart of downtown on 300 South and Northeast. You can find us there. You can find us on the internet, coldplungecoffee.com. All the socials are Cold Plunge Coffee. Instagram's where we say most of our news and highlights and alerts and stupid videos of me dancing around. But that's probably the best kind of mode of learning more about us. Yeah, I hope to just keep growing, and having fun is the main thing. So yeah, stay tuned.
Amazing. Caleb, thank you so much for taking the time to join our podcast, for sharing the story about Cold Plunge, for sharing a little bit about your story as well. I love the essence behind this, that sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to take the plunge. And I definitely, if I'm ever in Salt Lake City, will be seeing you in person there.
All right, you're going in the plunge? You're going to
Going in the
plunge?
plunge.
Okay, you got to do it. If you come here, you got to do it.
Agreed.
Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Caleb. Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.